And I wasn't sure about AI. We had seen it, and excuse me, Micah, for saying rude things, but all I saw was pink space mice on Mars with women in flowing dresses. And I go, oh God, that's stupid stuff. I mean, what do I want that for? Why do we want to create space mice on Mars? And so I was very negative on the whole process of AI, and I thought, well, this is no fun at all, because I wasn't working with my own images. And so Micah gives this presentation, and I showed it to a lot of his senior marketing people at Adobe, and kicked some butts. And we decided we needed to get into this and bring this to Firefly and to Photoshop. And that's when it hit me. That's when it hit me, because I'm a big user of stock photography. And so I can now, in Photoshop, make that selection instead of looking for that cowboy hat. I had this huge resource of Adobe stock that I was pulling from. And the snowflake effect is here. If I say created a cowboy hat, each time I do that, it's unique and different, and no one else in the world can create the same cowboy hat as the one I have. And that intrigues me as a graphic designer, to be able to create files like that and work in Photoshop. And so Micah's back again. I've given him enough time to plug things in. Let's find out where the world is today. Is that about right, Micah?
That sounds good.
Let's go for it.
Is
Micah.
Kevin around?
Kevin around. Yeah, where's Kevin?
Okay.
I need audio. Whoa. Am I really loud?
What?
Am I too loud?
What?
Sounds really loud to me. Can someone make sure my phone is recording?
It is recording,
Keep changing stuff.
and we're looking for Kevin next door. I'm surprised we lost our sound
Tiki Mats is
engineer
coming. All right.
in the afternoons. Would my Mr. Microphone up there next to the speaker work?
I don't know. No, probably not.
Let's rely on Kevin. Did I tell everybody how important Kevin was? And we love him? Yeah. He's not here? Boy, we hate him.
Any audio out of this?
No, that's all. Okay, hold on.
It's going through the HDMI. I don't know what that's supposed to.
I will try pushing some buttons. Do you have some?
Should I
Do
speak?
you have some audio you can play? Oh, I hate this when this happens. Micah, I didn't mean to do this to you. Pod mic. Turn. Can you play audio? You have any audio playing?
I'm trying. They got nothing.
Well, if I just move the dials. Is there any sound coming out of your computer?
That's the question. Let me unplug the HDMI first. I have audio coming out of the computer.
Can you, is it?
Give me 1 second.
I was just wondering whether if I brought the Mr. Microphone up there. We call this Mr. Microphone because I'm a child of the 60s. There's a toy called Mr. Microphone.
Mr. Microphone. I'll put this back in. Should it be going through HDMI? That's the question.
You have a picture, an image up there. What
Yeah.
audio are you needing to hear?
Test, 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 test.
You're calling it now?
Yeah. this is a good time to do this. Where's Kevin?
I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Kevin's not here.
Hey, I don't want to say much.
Give me a minute. We'll figure it out. I'm working on it. You know. What generative fill can just create?
Hold on, I'm gonna find the AV guy, Kevin.
The AV has been
You got audio?
No, yeah, I have audio. How do I need to do?
Look at that camera.
Thank you, Gavin.
You guys got someone in your audio?
I was looking for you. But you were not. HDMI is in. Is there another one? That makes sense. I did not look hard enough.
She's getting a hold of her.
Hey, we hear. You got this? Everybody hear this?
I heard something.
Yeah, that's all you need to hear. There's nothing on this. This is just a quiet slide. All right.
Great.
Here we go. Woo! All right, good. Cool. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, everybody.
Keep rolling, rolling, rolling. Though the streams are swollen, keep them nogies rolling, roll. Through rain and weather, hair and bent for leather, wishing my gal was by my side. All the things
Hi there. My name is Micah Berg. By day, I'm a creative director at a regional California sleep products retailer. So I do a lot of ads that say things like free, 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 and tax-free, and get your mattress today. At night, I dabble in graphic design. I'm a photographer, a board gamer. My wife is really into board games, and I also play a lot with AI. This is my wife, Shayna. As you can tell, I've been playing a lot with AI with her. And I'm loved by my wife, Shayna, and my cat, Scraggles, and this is my new cat, Scraggles. What's going on? Last year, Russell graciously invited me to speak at this amazing things happening in artificial intelligence, generative technology. Little did we know that the cool stuff I was showing off last year would be far surpassed by what's already available now, even in Photoshop. So I'm using artificial intelligence every day in my day job. Whether I'm replacing backgrounds for a product shoot, I'm creating entirely new lifestyle scenes for ads, I'm using generative tech in AI in advertisements, corporate communications, and my own personal projects. Consider for a moment, to shoot lifestyle photos such as these, you would need to hire actors, rent perfect locations, wait for the perfect day because you got to get the lighting right, and then you have to get all those shots and then cull them. Or you could type a prompt into Midjourney or Stable Diffusion generate dozens and dozens of lifestyle images like these, and use them in your posters and billboards. All of the images you see here were created in either Midjourney or Stable Diffusion, along with a little bit of assistance in Photoshop. These are now in our stores as billboards. They're in our stores and the posters. I'm using these in our ads all the time.
Micah,
Yes.
totally legal?
Yes. Totally legal. So, and I'm saying totally legal within bounds. There are considerations regarding copyright that's going to come down the pike. Right now, there's nothing legally barring us from doing this. That said, I probably do not own copyrights on these.
That's probably what I meant.
So today I want to show you how to use several different tools to generate images, to refine images, to alter images, and we're probably going to take a few rabbit trails along the way. I'm going to show you how I created those posters and other images for the class and other things, utilizing several different generative engines, starting with Midjourney. First, we're going to use Midjourney to create an image. And Midjourney is a Discord-based AI generation system. And I'll go through all this very in-depth. Next, we're going to use Photoshop, Generative Expand, and Generative Fill to edit the image. And then finally, we're going to use Stable Diffusion to refine the image and to add and change features in it. After that, we're going to look at a bunch of other things we can do with generative AI. Now, one caveat, I don't have time to show you each and every keystroke. I'm not going to have the time to explain to you how the engine works and all the different ways to get it. A lot of that you can get from the handout QR code at the beginning, and some of that you're just going to have to pick up and explore. One important thing. This is about exploration. This is about you learning to use all these tools that are available to you. This isn't about how to do this one cool trick. Although I'm going to show you a lot of real cool tricks, you're really going to need to learn to explore and to stretch. The posters, some of the posters that you'll see in the booth, and then a lot of the graphics I've been doing for the show, were made with AI. And I'll walk you through the process I used to create a poster like this. Our first step is to generate a bison in Midjourney. What is Midjourney? Well, Midjourney is currently one of the most advanced image generation systems available. It's also one of the most versatile. You access Midjourney and you initiate prompts. You prompt the bot, excuse me, through a chat application called Discord. Midjourney excels in atmospheric, highly stylistic images like these. And by altering the prompt, you can generate different styles. Midjourney works on a subscription model. For $10, you get the basic subscription, which is probably hundreds and hundreds of images, or the $30 subscription for Pro, which is as many images as you want, depending on how fast you want them. There are bots or extensions to Midjourney that will create vector graphics, transparent graphics, and PNGs, and will upscale images. And I'll show you some of that. I'm using Midjourney every day. So let's start our project. So first, I'm going to go and tell Midjourney here to create our bison. And I have to type into a chat window. And this chat window is called in Discord. And this Discord is just a little chat window, and I'm talking to the bot as if I'm talking to a friend. And I'm starting by typing in a prompt /imagine. And then I'm typing in the prompt, which in this case is painting of a leaping bison with large shoulder hump in the Old West. Obviously, I've done this before. So the prompt can include a text description, content of what you want in there exactly, stylistic information. You can use even existing images as reference images, and settings about the image, like let's see, aspect ratio. You can even put negative keywords in there like, I don't want this in here, I don't want 3 horns, whatever it is. So Midjourney is now going to generate 4 variations on the theme that we gave. Now, most generative systems like this will use a form of what's called diffusion. And as you can see, it starts out with a very blurry image, and it's refining that image, pass after pass after pass, iteration after iteration.
You get to watch this?
You get to watch this live right when you're doing it in Midjourney. You can even create a video of it as it's doing it, if you want. This will take a minute or so, and then once it's done, we're going to look at the 4 options it gave us and pick one. Let's look at these. Oh, these are great. I really like the one in the top right. Now, right now, that's only 512 by 512, so that's kind of small. So I want to tell Midjourney to upscale number 2, our preferred bison. He looks pretty good. The other ones are a little funky, and I don't like the angle. So let's go ahead and tell it right here. I'm going to click this button. You can see it has U1, U2, U3, U4. Well, that's number 2, so I'm going to click U2 to upscale it. Give it just a second. And now we have a 1024 by 1024 bison. And he looks great. I'm really happy with it. All right. So now the bison's big. He's 1024 by 1024, but he's not quite big enough. I really need it bigger than this. Well, there's a lot of different ways to upscale within AI. I'm going to use one that's built into Discord. Well, it's not built into it. It's a different way of doing it. It's called Trace Journey. It is a separate subscription, but you can add Trace Journey to Midjourney, and it listens to your prompts, and now you can click this upscale button, and it will upscale that image 2 or 4 times. Now, I can do this for free with Stable Diffusion. Keep that in mind. Most of the things that you're seeing can be done for free with Stable Diffusion. So Trace Journey here, where's my notes? Trace Journey listens to your prompt, and it provides you useful services afterwards. It will do a good job at upscaling, it does a great job at vectoring, and removing backgrounds. As you can see, there's several options here. We'll go through those later. Here's the upscaled image. I'll zoom really deeply into this. You can see now, it looks really good. Our next step involves Photoshop. Now, most of us have already had a chance to use or to see generative fill in Photoshop. How many people here have used generative fill? How many people have used it in a project and actually actively working with it? Right, so I'm going to encourage you to really learn to use generative fill on a daily basis. Now, that said, generative fill has a few issues with it right now, things that we're going to take care of with Stable Diffusion. Generative fill takes new data, it takes the surrounding image. Let me start again. In generative fill, the engine looks at the surrounding data, you circle something, and it looks at it and creates data based on what's already there. You saw he's used, in his presentation, he created a horse, and it copied the style, copied the information. The same thing happens with generative expand. You open it up. Generative expand does a great job. I really like this. Using the same technology as generative fill, it looks at the image and it knows what it might look like expanded. Using the crop tool, we can enlarge the boundaries of the image and fill them with content. One thing to note, and this is probably my only comment on this for this session, you can talk to me later about it, but Adobe's generative system is what they call an ethical system. It's trained on stock photos from their own collection, and others they've licensed. Other generative systems use images from various sources, usually without any kind of permission, any kind of license. That said, this kind of limits Adobe's current offering currently, but you'll see why. While the ethics and the copyright issues of this will be on the discussion today, something to keep in mind. Most of the output of Firefly, which is the web-based generative AI, will have sort of a stock photo look to it. Though the version that's going to be released later this week, probably already has been, will be even better. It's not yet integrated into generative fill yet, though. There's also a limit to the styles that the Adobe system can do, and I think we'll see that today. But seeing the direction that Firefly's headed, I'm sure that this is going to get better as Adobe licenses more and more data over time. For now, we can achieve more if we use all these tools together. So now that we've created our bison in Midjourney and we've upscaled it in Trace Journey, let's edit the image in Photoshop. So first, we're going to use generative expand to enlarge our canvas. I'm going to grab the crop tool, and I'm going to expand the boundaries. And as you can see, I've got generative expand selected here. And I'm just going to expand those boundaries vertically and horizontally. I got to move that little thing out of the way. That thing really gets in the way, don't you think? You have to pin it somewhere, and it's always, even when you pin it, it's not where you want it. It is handy though. So once I tell generative expand to fill the contents of the image, it's looking at the context, it's looking at the image and the colors, and it's actually going to do a really good job of expanding this image. So it's going to give us a few options, so let's look at the different options it's given us here. I'll click through these. That one's pretty nice. That one's okay. Yeah, I think I like I like this one the best. All right, so let's choose this one. All right, our bison looks great, and the image is pretty big, but there's one thing, he's kind of a lonely bison. Let's give him a cowboy. Let's add a cowboy on the back of our bison to ride on him. So I'm going to take the selection lasso up here, and I'm just going to circle around the bison, as you can see. I'm just going to make a selection here. Oops, I'm pretty terrible at selecting things, so. Once I've got all of what I needed selected, I want to move some little bits and pieces here. I'm going to type in the prompt, cowboy in a saddle or in saddle near on top of bison. So let's get that in there, and then click this here, generate to have generative fill tell us what to do. It's going to give us 3 options. You can always make more, but let's see what we get. In some of these, I've trimmed it down a bit. This is pretty much live, so you can see it's going to give us these 3 guys here. Yeah, he's kind of funny looking. Okay, no. Let's go to that first guy. I think he's a pretty good cowboy, good template. So I'm sure the results from generative fill will get exponentially better over time, but for now, let's take a look at it. Oh boy. Okay. Yeah. All right. So currently, generative fill leaves a lot of options to be desired, especially with generating people and other things. This has a lot to do, I think, with the limited image base that was trained on, and I'm sure it's going to get better over time. But for now, we can use Stable Diffusion and a plugin for Photoshop to enhance this image. The Stable Diffusion installed on this PC, and with the automatic 1111 interface, you're all going, what? I'll tell you about that later. I can apply different models to our image, and I can enhance it all within Stable Diffusion for free. So let's talk about Stable Diffusion. Stable Diffusion is a generative AI system created by Stability AI. You can access Stable Diffusion's engine through a multitude of methods and different interfaces. Some of them are free and some of them are paid. Now, before I go any further, let's talk about all the different AI systems. You've probably heard of DALL-E, you've heard of Midjourney, you've heard of generative fill, you've probably heard of several others. Stable Diffusion. These are all engines. Behind the engine is something we call a model. And that model can be trained on a series of images. Now, generative fill and generative expand, and I'm only speaking completely out of ignorance here, are probably based on all of the stock images and all the content that's in there. So you can generate a photograph or an illustration, but it probably doesn't specialize in either one of these. Midjourney has its own interface and its own different models, and you can select which model you use within the chat window. Stable Diffusion uses models that you download from the internet, and each one of these models will focus on a specific product. But there's also different ways to access Stable Diffusion, and let's talk about some of those. First off, there's free interfaces. I love free things, and Automatic 1111 is free. So this is something that you'll install on your computer. It comes with the Stable Diffusion engine. When you install it on your PC, you then can type into these prompts, and it will produce an image for you. I really prefer this because it gives me granular control, and that's something I'll probably say several times in this, granular control over my images. It also has a lot of extensions and plugins that we can use, and there's free plugins for Photoshop. Invoke AI is another interface. It's much prettier than Automatic 1111. It requires a download, just like Automatic 1111 does, but it's got a much nicer interface. There's no connection to Photoshop. So you would have to enter Photoshop, make your changes, paste them into Invoke, etc.
Can you download in a Mac?
What's that?
Can you download in PC or Mac? Or
Yes. So you can. So these will run on the PC. Stable Diffusion will run on the PC or the Mac. Most of what I'm showing you is running in a web interface. So it's just running a web thing. Now, one thing about installing Stable Diffusion on your system is that it uses a lot of RAM and it uses a lot of VRAM. So it's going to gobble up a lot of VRAM. I've got this powerful little laptop here, and it runs great. And as time progresses, this is getting faster and faster, especially for Macs. This is Comfy UI, and Comfy UI is a relative newcomer. It uses a node-based system. Anyone here use Blender? This should look really familiar. So with Comfy AI, you draw these nodes, and you tell it what to do. So where Automatic Level 11 has it all in a line, Comfy AI uses these node systems. You can turn this stuff off as you need. These free interfaces come with the local install of Stable Diffusion, and this means the Stable Diffusion is going to use your GPU to generate images. If you don't have a powerful GPU or a powerful computer, you can run Stable Diffusion in the cloud on a system called Run Cloud. You can go there, you can click on one of these computers here, tell it you want to run Stable Diffusion, tell it which version you want to run, which model you want to install, and away you go. And your Auto Stable Diffusion plugin for Photoshop can connect directly to Runpod. So it's all happening behind the scenes. I was doing this earlier last week, and I was probably paying maybe 30 cents for an hour's worth of rendering time. It was really great. If there's interest, I'll probably launch some Runpods tomorrow and have them available for folks to test. Stability AI is a web interface for the Stable Diffusion engine. You've probably heard of Stability AI. These guys have made Stable Diffusion. It's got a lot of options and updates. Leonardo AI is a new interface. It's also web-based. This is a website you go to. It's very powerful, and it has a lot of model options. And you can test any model out that you find on a specific website called Civic AI, I'll tell you about. You can test that model out right here in Leonardo. There's a lot of other ones, but these are the ones you should check out first. So, Stable Diffusion, let's talk about models. Stable Diffusion, and the power of Stable Diffusion is rooted in its ability to use these different model sets of trained data. These models can be downloaded from free sites like Civic AI, and there's several kinds of models. So we're going to look at the main models today, which are checkpoints. Checkpoints are the main models of Stable Diffusion. It looks at this, it's a very generalized model. But specialized models will enhance your image, whether you want to do photorealism, illustrations, anime girls, whatever you want, you can do this by downloading a specific model. You don't have to download a specific model. The generalized model that Stable Diffusion comes with will generate those, but these are trained specifically on really specific information. I use some that are really good for illustrations, and I use another one for photorealism. Something called LoRa. LoRa are very small little data sets that will alter your final output. So the model will generate, and the LoRa will then change that generation into something else. As you can see, I did a woodcut here and a watercolor. Finally, there's something called ControlNet. ControlNet's an extension for Stable Diffusion. It gives you granular control over your output. There's that word again, granular, because it really is that intense. With ControlNet, you can control the exact pose of your image. So if you want your cowboy to be taking off his hat, you can draw the cowboy and he'll take off his hat. Back to our poster. So here's our cowboy on the bison, and as I showed you earlier, if we zoom in, we notice he needs plastic surgery. So generative fill is just not going to help us here. So let's use Stable Diffusion instead. So I've got Stable Diffusion running on the PC in the background with Automatic Level 11 running here. I've got a free plugin called Auto Photoshop Stable Diffusion plugin. That's actually its name. And it connects to the Automatic Level 11 interface. So you install Automatic Level 11, you install a plugin, and they connect together. This is going to let us make images with Stable Diffusion directly in Photoshop. So to do this, I'm just going to make a square selection of our cowboy's head and chest. And now I'm going to click this button over here to open the plugin up. The plugin gives us access to most of the capabilities of Stable Diffusion. We can do, let me pause this for a second to show you. You can see these little buttons here. There's a text to image, image to image, in paint, out paint. So this is older language. You're probably used to generative fill and generative expand. Well, in painting is generative fill, and out painting is generative expand. You can use Stable Diffusion to do those same things. Now, obviously this interface is kind of confusing, but again, if you play with it, it's very rewarding. We're going to use image to image, because I'm going to take this existing image and change it. I don't want to create it completely, but I'm going to change it. So I'm going to go in here and type in a prompt that says cowboy in a saddle riding on a bison. Now, I'm using a Stable Diffusion model I've already downloaded called Eldred's Vivid Mix. and is a very good model for painted and illustrative images. Now, I'm going to check my settings.
Hey, Micah.
I'll make sure that we're generating at 1024 by 1024.
Micah, how do you know what model to choose? Is there a
Yeah,
directory
so-
or something?
Yeah, so on my handout, I've given you some people to keep an eye on. A fellow named Livio Starkos and Navinda Streg. They're really good at telling you the best models to look at. But again, experimentation. You know, you hear somebody like me say, hey, go check out this model. And then what you do is you download that model, test it, see if it's what you want. That's probably the best way, but Civit AI, which I'll show you later, shows you all the models and they're rated kind of like Yelp. So I'm using Stable Diffusion model called Eldred's Vivid Mix and checking my settings here. 1024 by 1024, let's see here. So there's some other settings I need to change here. This denoising strength here, well, let me change the size, 1024 now. 1024 by 1024, and now I'm going to grab this thing called denoising strength. What is denoising strength? Well, denoising strength is what tells the system how much to change the image. So you know in Photoshop generative fill, you can fill a layer with like 30% gray, or you can use a quick mask at a 30% or a 60% and then run watercolor generation or something like that. That's sort of similar to this. We're doing a similar thing. We're lowering that opacity down. I'm going to set it to 0.3. And it looks like we've restarted the video. Sorry. So we're going to do this all again. This is the important part, too. So again, just to walk over this one more time, I'm selecting a square selection. I'm going to open up the Stable Diffusion. I'm going to go and check. I think I'm going to take this. Image to image, type in the prompt. I say cowboy on a, riding on a, cowboy in a saddle riding on a bicycle. Now I'm going to select the model. Scroll down and make some changes here. Image to image is selected for sure. I'm going to increase the size. I'm going to hit this button here, and then I'm going to increase the size. A lot of trial and error here. Lowering the denoising strength so they don't replace the image completely. And let's have it create. Let's see what we do here. Let's click generate and see what it gives us. So now the system throws it to automatic 1111. Automatic 1111 is in the background. It's going to give us 3 options. And here's our first one. Let's compare him. So compared to what we got from generative fill, we have a much more refined looking color.
How did you, so if you go into Photoshop and you browse plugins, you'll find auto Photoshop.
You're not going to find it there. You're going to have to use the little link that I gave you at the beginning. And I'll go back to that at the beginning and find it. You can also type it into Google, it'll come up. And installing it, there's a CXX file, CCX file, which you can download and install. All right, so our cowboy's looking pretty good now. He looks good. I've composited him in there good. I've gone and I've masked him in perfectly. Now, what if we wanted to change him to someone else? Someone who looks familiar. So let's do that. What if we want to make this cowboy look like someone familiar? So again, I'm going to do a selection, and this time it's a square selection. Let's do it. Here's my square selection, and I'm going to go copy merge, and now I'm opening the automatic 1111 interface. So this is what the automatic 1111 interface looks in the browser. Now, I've got it running on my system the whole time, but this is what it looks like in the browser. I open up the browser window, I type in the address for automatic 1111, and up this pops. Again, this is running on my computer. This will give me more control over the image. So I'm going to go to the image to image tab. Again, image to image means I'm taking the image that's there and replacing it. So I'm just going to paste the cowboy in, and I'm going to type in a prompt, and bear with me on this prompt here. There's a reason I'm doing it the way I am. Painting of a bald cowboy with no jowls, beard, and no hair. Now, let's talk about that lower thing there. So that lower area is a negative prompt. So I've played with this image several times, and I've gotten the best results after playing with it. Again, experimentation is important. And no offense to the person who we're about to create, he's not bald. But in the past, the system has looked at the back of the hat and has created long flowing hair. So I don't want to do that. So I'm making it bald. That said, I'm also removing the jowls, the beard, and the hair because it tends to add all sorts of crazy features.
And bald is beautiful.
Bald is beautiful, isn't it? So now I'm going to make sure that I've got all the settings. Again, I'm going to go 1024 by 1024 because I want it to be a high enough resolution. Lower that denoising strength. And now I'm going to something called Control Net. No, actually, this time it's Roop. One of the extensions you can download for Automatic 1111 is called Roop. And what does Roop do? Roop, its whole purpose in the universe is to swap faces. So let's go see and swap a face here. I'm going to find the face I want to use. So I'm going to click right here in this window. And let's, oh, here's this, wow, look at this guy. He's beautiful. Let's use this face here. Enable the Roop extension. Everything else is pretty much exactly the way I want it. And I'm just going to click generate. Now, this may take several passes. You may run it and then put your finalized image back into, and then run it again. But in this case, it did pretty good. Hey, that's not bad. That'll work. I can Photoshop in the beard properly later. So I'm just going to copy this, go into Photoshop, paste it in. Got to resize it a bit. It's going to take me a bit. So what I usually do is I'll lower the opacity, and then I resize my image and mesh it in. I raise the opacity back up once I've got it exactly the way I want it. You can see it's not quite perfect, but it's getting close. Might have to move it again after I do some of the masking on it. And I did it again, didn't I? Sorry, give me 1 second. Bad things. Let's try this again. Here we go. All right. Let's jump ahead. A little different. It does not want to jump ahead. I'm sorry. We're going to have to walk through this again. I apologize. So I'm just going to take this. You can all watch it again. You'll love it. I'm going to take this image here. I'm going to copy this. Copy merge. I'm going to paste it into Automatic 1111. Go to the image tab, paste it in, just drops it right there. Now I'm going to put in my prompt again, painting. See, I even spelled it wrong. Painting with a bald cowboy. Let's fix that. And here's my negative prompt: jowls, beard, hair. All right, ready to go. Scroll down. Once again, I'm still using that Eldrith Vivid Mix model. Increase my width and size. Set the denoising strength down to 0.28, looks like, and then I'm going to add the Roop. Let's go back and get that image of Russell we liked. Here it is. Enable Roop. And let's generate. Here comes our new Russell image. Hey, he looks great. So let's copy him. Let's go back into Photoshop and let's paste him in there and mask him in. So again, what I'm doing here is I'm going to paste it in, lower the opacity, use my Control T or Command T to transform it to lower the size and the width and the height. Once that's done and that's where I want it, I will hit enter to save that. And I'm going to raise my opacity. It looks like it stopped right there. All right, well, let's see what happens when it goes. All right, so I've finished retouching it, and here's what we've got. So Russell's looking really good. One more thing we want to do is we want to add some texture on this, and you probably all know how to do this, but I'll just walk you through it. I'm going to grab this texture over here that's in my library, drag it onto the image, rotate it into place, and I'm going to transform it just the size I need. It's a little too big. Let's resize it. Now, you can see that it's transparent on the edges, so I'm going to use this as my mask. I'm going to command or control click on the image there, and I'm just going to use the masking tool down below to mask the image. I'm going to also take that above image and change it to multiply and then lower the opacity a bit. That gives us some texture. And of course, every image needs a good drop shadow. So we'll just drop it to a drop shadow in here. Multiply mode. Yeah, that's pretty good. Okay, there's our drop shadow. So here's our final image. So with a little more Photoshop work, poster's ready, done to print. To review, we used Mid-Journey to create the initial image, Trace Journey to upscale the image, Photoshop Generative Fill to add our cowboy, Stable Diffusion to refine our cowboy, Root to swap the face, and back to Photoshop. So I used a similar process this year to create this poster just a few weeks ago. Generated the poster in Mid-Journey and just copy and pasted all the faces in and used Group to swap them out. It does not do well with glasses, so I apologize to Julianne and to Lisa. So this image of Russell's great, but what if we wanted a woodcut? What if we wanted a vector style image out of it? Well, we can do that with Stable Diffusion. Now, again, I'm going to start in the automatic 1111 interface because I can't do this in Photoshop. It's a little bit too much and too intense for the Photoshop plugin. So what you see here is the automatic 1111 interface. I prefer having a local installation because I can control the models and what's going on in there. We're going to use the Eldred Vivid Mix again, and I'm going to show you how this works. I'm going to put it in a text prompt just to show you how the Eldred Vivid Mix, here's all the different models I have installed. And I'm just going to select Vivid Mix, and let's put in a prompt. Now this is text to image, so I'm going to create an image out of text. And I'm just going to say cowboy with a tall hat. And let's see what else we can do here. I can click generate, and here comes our first image. So here's our cowboy, and no, he doesn't really have a tall hat, but he's not bad looking. But you can see that's sort of a painterly illustrated image. That's what this model is really good at. All right, so let's switch over to image to image. Let's go and grab that picture of Russell again. And let's type in a prompt this time. And we're going to say man with a tall hat, head cut, H-E-D-C-U-T, not head cut, but head cut, monochrome. Now, let's talk about what a head cut is. Head cuts are those images that you see when you go to those portrait images, when you go to like the New York Times. Remember, they've got those really nice drawn images. That's what a head cut is. That's the style. And this model that I'm going to use is based on that style. So it's not sufficient. Just typing this in is not going to give us what we want. So we have to go down and use something called a LoRa And a LoRa is another model. It's just a very small one, and it's very specific to this. And it's called Gaz's Head Cut. So I'm just going to click on Gaz's Head Cut, and what that's going to do is it's going to add Gaz's Head Cut into my prompt. Now I can lower that number, that'll increase or decrease the amount of the head cuttedness or the illustration it will do. I'm going to adjust some settings here. I'm going to need negative prompts, and now I'm going to go here. I'm going to set this to 768 by 768, and I'm going to set the denoising strength down to 0.6 because I want it to replace the image, but I don't want it to replace the image completely. I'm also going to use something called control net right here to make sure that it doesn't replace my image completely. Here I am using Russell's image again. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it with control net, I'm going to tell it, stick to this image. Whatever you make, go back to this image as your guide. This is what control net does. Now, control net has a bunch of models, again. One of the models it has is something called canny. And if you don't know what canny means, canny is just edge detection. So I'm going to go down here, turn on the preview, turn on Pixel Perfect. I'm going to enable it. I'm going to click canny, and it selects the right model for me. Now, again, experimentation is important. You can see I'm messing with these thresholds. All this does is tell it how much of the edge detection I want to do. Get in there and experiment. Just have to adjust a few more things and check this red button. You can see the edge there. All right, that's almost perfect. All right, good to go. Control that's more important. Let's scroll up. I think I'm going to create several of these so we can choose the best one out of all of them. So let me go and do that. Let's go to background 4 and generate. You can already see we've got one that's pre-generated here.
Your layers panel will collapse here. Turn off the other 2 layers.
Shine off my head.
Save that and go to what's that?
Here comes our images.
Top there.
I want to get rid of all these lines.
You can see it's starting to form one now.
So either
And it's generating more.
We got a line there.
Good call.
When it's done, we're going to have
Okay, now, oh, wait, there's another line
4
there.
different images to choose from. Here they are. Well, I really like these. One of these I like better than the other. I think I'm going to stick with one of these. Now, what would really be great is if I could convert these to a vector file.
Save as. Oh, I put it on my thumb drive.
Well, I can convert these into vector files. I could usually do it with image trace, but if any of you have used image trace in Illustrator, you know it's not great. It's
Picture
pretty
called
terrible.
bottle rainbow.
I have an option for that. Remember that thing we used earlier called Trace Journey?
No, I'll just call it road instead.
First thing we do is take the image into Photoshop here, and I'm going to increase the brightness and the contrast a bit. Because what I really want is I want it to be really crisp, black and white. I don't want a lot of gray in here.
Put your last
So I'm gonna play this quite a bit.
That way
Okay.
he's got a problem with the file. He knows
I like how it gave us the little media bar there.
Okay.
And
I'll tip it right to
desktop.
the closer we get these together, the more contrast it's going to get.
Plug your just in trades.
And when we're done with this, I'm using levels. Ask Lisa about
Oh,
levels.
oh, my thumb drive's over there.
So you have to go grab.
Now when I'm happy with this,
Or can I
what
put
I'm
it
going to
on
do
a
is I'm going
Yeah,
to,
you can, yeah, that's fine.
Select all.
He'll download and give it right back to you.
Okay.
and I'm going to paste it into a chat window. Now this chat window that I've got is a chat window in Discord with the Trace Journey bot. So remember I've got the Mid-Journey bot? Well, I also have a Trace Journey bot. Now I'm having a chat with just the Trace Journey bot. And what I can do is I can just paste any image in there, and it will now look at that image and go, hey, you want to do something with this image? What can we do with this image? Well, let's see. We can go remove background. We can vectorize. And so here we've removed the background. And now that's pretty good. Let's go ahead and vectorize it now.
That's fine. You just tell him he's.
I wanted to show him this.
Give it a few seconds, and it's going to give me an SVG file, which I can download to my
I'm
computer.
trying to find the file.
He hasn't done any of that yet.
I know, he said.
Trace Journey bot, by the way, is $10
I don't know
a
if he said
month.
to make it, or we could size it.
But
up.
it's so good,
So-
it's worth it. Just gonna drag this into an Illustrator, here's my file. We zoom down in here so you can see how good it is. Okay,
Just
wow. Why use trace tree when you can use image trace in Illustrator?
That's just a low.
I consistently get better results with trace tree. And you can see now power of Stable Diffusion. You can understand why having all that extra control is really useful. Let's look at some more examples. Starting with one of Chris's photos, I've already prepared it for processing. I've kind of blurred the images, the background a bit, and I've actually I've erased some of it. So once again, we're going to go ahead and play with it. I've also increased the brightness quite a bit because I have a plan for this. So I'm going to select all. Edit, select all. I'm going to copy, merge. Got it selected. All right. So I'm going to copy merged. I'm going to paste it into image to image in automatic 1111 again. And this time we're going to use a different Laura. And I'm going to go ahead and type in the prompt here, cowboy on a buffalo. And that's probably enough more. And now I'm going to select a different Laura. This Laura here is called Niji Watercolor 02. Now, Niji Watercolor is pretty common. You can download it from Civet AI. Get all my settings. You can see that little red window tells me when it's right in the right size. I'm going to play with the denoising strength a little bit. This time I really don't care about control net. I don't need to force the image. I'm going to lower this config scale a bit. Again, these are things you have to learn. Well, all right, let's go ahead and do some control net. I think we'll go ahead and put that image back in there as the control image. That way we don't lose it completely. This time I'm going to use the line art model. And what the line art model does is it's very similar to Candy. It's kind of an edge detection, but it's a different kind. Denoising strength way down. And let's go and generate an image. All right. Ooh, groovy. Yeah, I dig those groovy colors. Very nice. Yeah, his face needs help though. He's got Play-Doh face. We got to fix this. So this time I'm going to toss this into image to image, which is sort of generative fill for automatic level 11. I'm going to paint on his face, and I'm going to tell it to generate. Now, the other thing I've done is I've told it to generate the face at the full resolution of the image. So it's now generating a 1024 by 1024 face, and that looks excellent. Very good face. All right, well, we want to print this. It's still only 1024 by whatever, and so I'm going to use a upscaler, which is built into automatic 1111. I toss the image in there. I selected upscaler model, which I've also found online. And I click generate here. I'm going to upscale it 4 times. Here's my upscaler model I'm selecting. This one, Leo Starkus provided. Click generate, wait just a few seconds. And we're going to open our image. Here it comes. So we went from 1024 all the way up to 4096. And you can see how good it is. Here's our image. So as you can see, you can do that with all sorts of images. You can even start with that. You don't have to just use image to image. You could say, hey, give me a Mount Fuji with a bridge in autumn, watercolor, use the Niji watercolor Laura, and that's what you're going to get. Okay, we're getting low on time, so let's talk about something else. Here's what you can do with the different Lauras that are available. All with the same image, I can generate all these different styles. All right, this is kind of cool. This is creating hidden text with AI. So I saw this a few weeks ago and I thought this is the coolest thing ever. I gotta show you this. Just as we use control net to force Russell's face into our image, we're gonna force text into images and other objects. We're going to start in Photoshop. We're going to create a 1024 by 1024 image. I'm going to set the background here to black. Remember, I got a pretty cool spooky font installed called Schloop, which you can get from Adobe fonts. And I'm going to type in Halloween. Now I'm going to make this nice and big. And you know what? This is going to be good. Make it a little bigger. And I can do it just like this, but I think what I wanted to do is I really want to kind of blend it in the background some more. So I'm just going to duplicate this layer. And then I'm going to use a motion blur on the layer. That's pretty good. A little bit more. And now I'm going to mask the text layer a bit because I want to hide some of the text layer because it's a little too much. So grab my text layer, turn on the mask, grab a brush. And we'll just, oh, no, that's not what I want. Let's go here. That looks pretty good. Once again, we do a select all, copy merged, and I flip back over to automatic overlay. This time I'm going to the text to image area. I'm selecting my owner's vivid mix again, pasting it into the control net. Now this time I'm going to use a different model. And this model is called QR Code Monster. And you're probably asking yourself, why would they call it that? Well, the original intention here was to hide QR codes in images. It doesn't really work for that. It can, but I haven't been able to get it to do that. I'm going to set the control net weight to 1.2. The higher that control net weight, the more obvious that text is going to be in my image. And now for the prompt, I'm going to say, spooky, misty graveyard in the woods, monochrome. Let's make sure the size is set to right here. Yeah, let's go to 1024 by 1024. Then dial back the config scale a bit.
Is there an easy way to install stable diffusion on the Mac without having to go so
No. Yes. Invoke AI is actually really good. You download Invoke AI and install it. Invoke AI is probably the best,
I
okay?
feel like Midjourney is so much more user friendly, but then I tried to follow like how to install stable diffusion, and it seems like it's like really hard for a developer. Like, well, you have to know GitHub, which is really.
I don't want to scare you, but this is what Stable Diffusion looks like. This is what's running in the background. It's running in Python code. It is open source, so that's why it's like this. And I agree with you. It is a pain to install, especially on a Mac. And I don't really have an answer to that. I think Invoke AI probably will run better. It's a little more streamlined, but you don't get as much functionality. So I've generated our image, and it's starting to come out. And here's our Halloween image that we're creating. You can see it beginning to form. And let's see what our final looks like. So let's generate a few more versions.
You told me how to convert this.
I'm going to increase the strength a little bit because I want the text to be a little clearer.
But I just can drag it now and save it and drag it into replace on the disk, right?
Yeah, you gotta save it again.
I got it. Well, I just saved it.
Yep.
But do a save as or?
No, just save it.
Okay.
And then just drag it back over. Or did you open it up off the disk?
I opened it off.
So here's our three
Yeah,
images.
just drag it back.
I like that first one the best, so I'll just copy it. Paste it. Good to go.
An older version? No.
So this is great for text. Oops, let me show you this cool slide there. This is great for text, logos. It's not text, logos, all sorts of other things we can do. Again, I've not been able to get a decent QR code. We've already done vector logos, so I'm actually going to skip this because I've only got a couple of minutes left, and I'm going to skip ahead to something mind-blowing. hopefully this will probably finish this off. So you can create animation with AI. It's not just great for still images, it's great for videos. The little video you saw at the beginning was created with AI. This was created with Midjourney and then taken into a product called Runway ML.
Say that again, it was a little loud.
Runway ML is the animation system. All right. So Runway ML is a website with a generative engine. It's also able to generate videos and images, just like Stable Diffusion. Looks like it's halting to me. It's halting to you?
Yeah, it's kind of choppy.
Why is it choppy? It's not supposed to be choppy. It's because music playing. Let's not.
Yeah, that could be.
Okay, it's not supposed to be choppy, so let's just see if I can run it without it being choppy. I know I don't have much time left, so we'll shut down a couple of things. This looks better. So this is Runway ML. You can go to Runway ML and get an account. Throw a still image in and it will create videos. These videos that you're seeing here were created from still images. These were not motion images, they were not videos. It does have a tendency to lighten the person as it zooms in on them, but it's okay. Now this is text to video, so I typed in, something like cowboys walking into town.
Oh.
Cowboys sitting on the range chatting, right? These guys are just having cowboys next to the fire. Pika Labs is a plugin, kind of like, it's a chatbot, sort of like Midjourney. It does really good images. The only thing I don't like about Pika Labs is kind of the low resolution. But I really like what it does animation-wise. It also does text to video, so you can tell it to generate an image, or generate a video from text. Again, cowboys sitting around a campfire, cowboys walking into town. You can see it's a little stilted. It adds extra length. Of course, it could. Layout Pix is not really fully animation, but it does really neat depth animations, as you can see. I really like these depth animations. I use them a lot at work when I have a still image that I need to animate for a video. Now, for Stable Diffusion, we can do video to video as well. And what that entails is going into Stable Diffusion, loading the video into Stable Diffusion, and giving it a prompt.
Photoshop.
This one requires a lot of manual
It's not.
editing. And by editing, I mean
So that's
playing
not,
with it.
okay, click out here.
But
Let me
once you get it done, it's
add
going to look pretty
guard,
good.
the guy so I can.
You shouldn't have to do
There it
anything.
is.
So he's saying, yeah, so click.
So
on-
frame by frame, it's regenerating the
Go
video.
over to properties,
Uh,
the first tab there.
One last
Down to
thing
Image trace.
before Kevin drags me off the screen.
will it
And then
change it?
black
now?
and white.
This little animation I created with Dolly 3.
That does it?
Yep, and then you have to hit expand.
Where's it expand?
Generative expand, generative fill, and then I
And that
use
keeps
the
it
character
clear?
animator to
Yeah,
make
it
it
should look
walk.
okay.
Let's
Okay.
watch
Because
that.
the other thing is I have a screenshot of it.
So you can tell
Yeah,
my
that's not-
character
that's not
animation skills are not up to
screenshots
par.
Okay. Cool. Thank
But
you.
Click in here.
that took 15 minutes. And I'm terrible, I
Oh,
don't
cool.
do animation, I do video. That took 15
And then-
minutes. So this is really powerful stuff.
I think I open it from
Before Kevin kicks me off of my show.
Well, it'll show the time though.
One more thing. Let's go to the, you can do this now.
It's the room monitors that kick us out at 5.
Yeah, we're kind of on a hard stop.
Okay, if you go to Bing and you click images here,
I don't know.
you're gonna get a bunch of images.
So
One of the
let me
things you can
just
do is you
save
can
as and change
create.
it slightly so I'll know.
You can't see it. I can
Okay.
make that fixed. In 1 second.
Oh, look, that's there's letter missing, so I'll know that's what I find.
Here we go. Duplicate these displays. Nope, that did not work. Keep changing duplicate displays.
Yeah.
Okay, here we are in Bing. I've clicked images. I'm now going to click create. The Bing create image will come up and I can type in something like cowboy on bison.
Okay.
Click create and here it comes. You can see I've already created some other images here. I gotta tell you, Dolly 3 is really impressive. So there we go. Now I've got a lot more to show you, but of course I can't. So you can contact me. My contact information is probably on that handout that I each got at the beginning of the QR code. So I'll put that up on the screen.
Again.
Let's go back and put that up on the screen. And if you have any questions, you can contact me directly at micah@burke.photography. That's my quickest email you can get me at. Find me on Instagram, find me all other places.
You're around tomorrow.
I'll be here all day tomorrow. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope you enjoyed it.
Once again, that's fantastic to get up to speed. You are so into the future of all these new technologies. Wow. I just want to see.
Don't leave yet.
Don't leave yet.
Don't leave
see
it.
that
You guys,
issue.
don't leave yet.
Okay, yeah, I have two announcements. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, that was a crazy day. You did very well. You should congratulate yourself. We have bottles. We have tin types. This room implodes.